Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So pretty much since the NHL season has been on pause, shortly after that I've seen a lot of different things come out from guys like Pierre LeBrun, Bob McKenzie, etc. Just, guys, reporters for the NHL that have stated that there is a possibility that the NHL will exercise a different type of playoff format should the season resume at some point. And given the fact that the regular season seems all but done with, playoffs are most likely going to happen, and in my opinion will probably happen around mid to late July, because I know the MLB has made a proposal to start their season around the 4th of July weekend, and it wouldn't surprise me if the NBA starts around sometime July. So if that is the case, I could fully expect to see the NHL playoffs start sometime in July, but obviously I could be wrong. But in regards to the expanded type playoff format, in recent reports by Pierre LeBrun and Bob McKenzie, among others, have stated that there is some traction heating up regarding a 24-team playoff type format. So what does that mean? Well, obviously, going for the NHL playoffs, there's normally 16 teams in the playoffs for each division, whether it be the conference, whether it be the Eastern or Western Conference. But now that is going to be extended to 12 teams, totaling 24. And I also have seen recent reports by Pierre LeBrun that have said that there are two cities that are basically viewed as zones possibly for the teams, where there will be 12 teams in each city that would play during the playoffs, as they obviously don't want to expand too much more than that. So that is a possibility as well. But what is this going to mean for all the teams that are now involved, and what teams are going to benefit the most by this extended playoff format? Well, there are certain teams that come to my mind, and a lot of factors go into it. One, you have to take into account the amount of players that are going to be healthy, that are currently injured or still dealing with an injury. And if the playoffs does not pick up until later in the summer this year, then obviously the majority of these players, high-end players that are now currently injured, are going to be healthy by then. So what teams are going to benefit the most? I wouldn't say the Penguins or the St. Louis Blues, while the Penguins will receive Genzel back, and of course the Blues would get Tarasenko most likely. That's a great addition, but there are some teams that definitely need their players to be healthy, and as long as they all are healthy, that'll be key to their success, as they would really obtain a huge portion of their overall roster. So not just health, but among other things too, you also have to take into account the teams that will make the most noise. So while there will be most likely 24 teams in the playoffs, that doesn't necessarily mean that all those teams are going to do well. I fully expect some of those teams that weren't going to make the playoffs to still play poorly if they play one or whatever games that they would play in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to do well, certain ones, and I'll get to them. But I want to talk about teams that now are making playoffs as well, that I could fully see taking advantage of the situation and actually have a possibly deep run. So starting off my list, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. And yes, the Maple Leafs are already in a playoff position, but so are the other teams. Why is this going to benefit them? Well, a couple things. Like I said, health is a huge factor when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. If the playoffs does not pick up until, say, mid to late June or longer, and of course it'll be expanded, it's going to benefit them in a lot of ways. One, they will most likely get the players back with Ilya Mikheyev, who I'm a big fan of, the rookie Russian forward that they acquired from the KHL going into this season. Then of course you have Morgan Riley, who's their leader on the blue line, and you have Jake Muzzin, who is another very solid defenseman for them, one of the better overall defensemen that they have on their roster, and Andreas Johansson, who I'm a big fan of, another young Swedish forward who has done well for them when healthy. But you would expect the majority of them to at least be back from injury, and you also have to add in the fact that they could possibly not play the Boston Bruins, especially in the first round. Depending on how this playoff format is going to be issued, the Leafs could very well play a team that is not even currently in a playoff spot, but would be with the expanded playoff format. So that would benefit them a lot, I'm sure. And the Leafs have had a roller coaster year. There's no question about that. But kind of restarting things after months of being away, I think this would really benefit them with their chemistry and their overall team mentality, and really everyone being healthy would help them a lot. And if they avoid the Bruins, they could possibly get out of the first round without even playing them. So that would be a huge boost for them, as they've been eliminated in previous years, as we all know, not advancing past the first round. But if they can do that, especially without having to face the Boston Bruins possibly, then that will definitely benefit them. And that could really be a huge factor into them having a deep run this year. And Freddie Anderson, their stud goaltender, having the rest that he's been having and is going to continue to have over the next couple months, is only going to do great things for them. But next now on my list, I have the New York Rangers. I have the Rangers for a couple reasons as well. One, they will of course have Chris Kreider back, who was originally injured if the season had continued, but he would be back with the playoffs. And the Rangers are an interesting team because, and I also want to mention this one last thing about the Leafs. They are currently third in the Atlantic and they have 81 points. And I would assume that the playoff format would be just the best 12 teams from the Eastern and Western Conference points-wise. But when it comes to the Rangers, they are currently only 2 points out, one win away from being in the second wildcard spot coming out of the Metropolitan Division with 79 points. And besides obtaining a guy like Kreider, they just have so many weapons on that roster, whether it be the likes of Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, all throughout that lineup, Igor Shesterkin playing fantastic for them, and the possibility of Henrik Lundqvist having another playoff run with the team. Now, this is what's going to be very intriguing when it comes to the Rangers situation, because if they say do make playoffs given this change in format, what are they going to do? Are they going to stick with Igor Shesterkin and or Georgiev, or are they going to put Lundqvist in and give him another run? It's pretty obvious that Lundqvist will not be with the Rangers after the season. It seems evident that the Rangers are going to terminate his contract by buying him out, which is really unfortunate given what's happened with him over the past year, but that is business at the end of the day. But are the Rangers going to consider giving Lundqvist one last run while they have a decent enough roster to possibly make some noise in the playoffs? I really hope that's the case for the Rangers, because while I am a huge fan of Shesterkin, the future is very bright when it comes to him and the Rangers, so it would be more of a waste, in my opinion, to have Shesterkin play in the playoffs than Lundqvist, when Lundqvist, deservingly so, should get at least one more run. That's my opinion. But with the Rangers, there's a lot to like, and if they do make the playoffs, expect them to make a lot of noise and really benefit from this overall situation, because they could play some teams that I know for sure they could outbeat. But next on my list now, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are another one of those teams that is really going to benefit given the players that they would receive from injury. Of course, you have their leader on the blue line, Dougie Hamilton, who was looking like a Norris caliber defenseman up until he broke his fibula earlier this season, halfway through the season, I do believe. But he was on a ridiculous pace for them point-wise, and I fully expect him to be healthy and doing great things for them if they do that in the playoffs. And next, you also have Sami Vatanen, who they originally acquired from the New Jersey Devils, to which he has not played a game with them yet. He should be healthy by then. And then Brett Pesce, who's a very solid, one of the better overall stay-at-home defensemen in the league. He should be healthy. James Reimer, who's been splitting time with Mrazek, should be healthy. And, of course, Ryan Dzingel, who has not been as good this season as he has been last year, splitting time between the Blue Jackets and the Senators. I still expect him to be healthy and to do a fine job with them. But Carolina can truly benefit from this situation with the extended playoff format, and getting their roster healthy could really be crucial. I could definitely, without question, see the Carolina Hurricanes have a very deep run, and it would all be hand in hand with that blue line and just everyone being healthy. And of course, having Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7, anything's possible, right? But next on my list now, I have the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche are an amazing team on paper, but they need to be healthy. So another situation where if they can get healthy, the sky's the limit when it comes to them. You're talking Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Philip Grubauer, Nazem Kadri, Matt Calvert, and Andrei Burakovsky, almost all, if not all, being healthy when the playoffs would start. That is a huge chunk of their roster. Some of the best players in that lineup, including, of course, Rantanen and McKinnon. And if they are all healthy, then look out if you're in the Western Conference, because I would be really worried if I were you. The Avalanche are an insanely good team, and when healthy, there's truly no other team in the league better than them. And I know that I have claimed that some other teams have been the best in the league this year, but the Avs are, without question, one of the best when healthy. So if the Avalanche can get healthy, then a lot of things can happen. And going back to the Hurricanes too, they are currently first in the wild card coming out of the Metropolitan Division as well at 81 points, and the Avalanche are second in the Central currently with 92 points. So they have done fine given all these injuries this season, but they deserve to be healthy, and this would be huge for them. At the playoffs start this season, everyone would be healthy, and I can expect so much for them. Definitely a deep run for sure, if not ultimately the Stanley Cup, but who knows what's going to happen. And last on my list now, I have the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks were a team that I kind of debated between picking them, and I had an honorable mention of the Florida Panthers for the Eastern Conference, but I didn't pick the Panthers because while they do have some great weapons on that offense, like, of course, Huberdeau, Barkov, Evgeny Dadonov, Mike Hoffman, etc., I don't trust that defense enough, and that goaltending behind Sergei Bobrovsky has not done it this season. So I'm honestly going to go with the Canucks. I think the Canucks, too, they deserve to make playoffs. They aren't even points out of a playoff spot. They are tied for the wild card card spot in the Western Conference, but are currently staying out with one less win. They are tied with 78 points apiece with the team above them, and overall, if the Canucks make playoffs, I could see them doing some good things. They have a very strong younger roster, and Jacob Markstrom, if he would get healthy, which I assume he would, and of course Josh Levo, who's a very solid depth forward. I like him a lot, who's originally from the Toronto Maple Leafs, been playing with the Canucks now. He's been solid for them when healthy, but if those guys get healthy for them, especially Markstrom, I could fully expect the Canucks to have a very solid run for them. And between Elias Parris and Bo Horvat and the resurgence of JT Miller and his career, a lot can happen for them. And of course, you have that young blue line with Quinn Hughes, and there's going to be so many young, entertaining defensemen that would be in the playoffs. Hughes, McCarr, Fox, etc., John Marino for the Penguins. There's so much, and so much to like when it comes to this league currently. But overall, going back to the Canucks, I really expect a lot out of them if they would make playoffs, and I could really see them taking out some of the teams if they were to, say, face the Arizona Coyotes or below them. The Wild, maybe. I don't know how the format is necessarily going to be. I just know that as of right now, it seems that there will be 24 teams. So if that is the case, I don't expect teams like the Montreal Canadiens to do as well as maybe the Habs fans would expect. I'm sorry if you're a Habs fan and see this, but I just don't think they have enough. And some other teams as well that were borderline make playoffs, don't make playoffs. I just don't see how it happens. The Rangers, I did predict well, though, because as soon as the season started, even before it, I predicted that they would either just miss or just make playoffs, and it looks like they're just going to make it if the playoff format changes. But that's going to be it for this video, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know who you think is going to benefit the most from this change in playoff format, assuming it happens and gets finalized, hopefully within the next week or two. But with all those things being said, thank you all so much. Please like, subscribe, comment. Check out my previous videos right down here below if you haven't already, and I'll be back in a day or two.